Hello and welcome back to SnowRunner, y'all, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at Slowest Artist 10's Ram 5500. Now you might be thinking to yourself, why is that a 5500? It looks quote-unquote like a 3500. Well, here's the thing. This is a 5500 with a bed on the back of it, which is not normally something you would see on a 5500. Normally, a 5500 would be optioned with something like a flat bed or a utility bed, but the default option on this one just so happens to have a normal pickup bed, but rest assured it is a 5500. Now there are some customization options that we need to go over before we take this thing for a drive, but let's go ahead and get into the garage, go through those customization options, and then take this thing out and see what it can do. Or if you do want to skip ahead to the driving, you can do that as well. So let's go ahead and head on into the garage. And now we're going to get right into the customization options. Now we have 3 different engine options: stock, upgraded, and performance. Then gearbox wise, we have stock, off-road, and highway. And for this map, I'm probably going to go ahead and switch it over to off-road because I feel like that's probably going to be a better match to some of the terrain that we'll need to be dealing with. Now we have 3 different suspension options. We have standard with no damage, and then we have a lift kit. Now, I originally was not going to go for the lift kit, but I think I will this time. I think we're going to have some fun and go for the lift. Now, tires-wise, the only option you get is 37s, at least for size. However, the amount of selection that you have is absolutely incredible. It just goes on and on and on and on. I am not going to name off every single tire because I would be here forever. But if you wanted to go through this entire list, I can almost guarantee that you would find something that you liked. And if you honestly were able to go through this entire list without finding a single tire or wheel setup that you liked, I would maybe wonder what wheel and tire setups you do like, because there's pretty much something in here for almost absolutely everybody. Now, I think for this setup, we're probably going to go with either the BFG MT or the military dually, or potentially, if we go back up, there was a Patagonia dually, which I really like the idea of. So let's see. We get 1 winch option. And see, my only issue with these Patagonia duals is that they don't quite fill out the fenders as much as I would like, but I'm not really going to worry about that, and I think we're going to run them anyway. Now, the option for a gooseneck hitch is there, as well as saddle high and low, because again, this thing with it being a 5500, you can pull some incredibly huge and incredibly heavy trailers with it. Now, as far as bed options go, you have your standard bed, then you have flat bed 1, 2, 3, which 3 is a little bit more of a utility bed or a service bed, and then flatbed 4, which has side boxes, and then 2 different chase racks that you can put on there as well. Now, I'm so back and forth on which option I want to go with, so I think what we will do is we'll probably go ahead and do, actually, you know what? Flatbed 4 looks sick. You have a fully custom front bumper if you do want to go that route. I think I'll stick with the stock bumper for this build, though, since we're only on 37s. And then you have either a stock Ram grill or a fully custom grill, which seems to be color matched. And then now you also can do some roof lights, but it's all down to really whichever position you want these in. I don't actually know if I'm going to go with one of those. And then, of course, the wheel options are entirely dependent upon the tire you've chosen. Now, as you go through the color options, you can see that it's pretty much going to be two-tone no matter which way you go, but the kind of outline of the grill is always going to follow along with whatever body color you've chosen. Now, I don't know if I want to do the white or if I want to do like a deep red, because I really like the deep red, and I think the deep red suits this truck really, really nicely. So now, let's go ahead and head on out of the garage and see what this thing is like to drive. It sounds really, really good. All right, so let's go ahead and turn off those dev tools. And even though this is a big tow-focused truck, I think we're actually going to take it through some trails and see what it's like when you put it into maybe something that's not quite out of its element, but kind of put it through its paces in something that it maybe wasn't fully intended for, but that it can still do. And I will tell you right off the bat, this suspension is pretty dang stiff. Although it makes sense with it being a lifted 5500. Easy. Now let's see. Do we want to go directly ahead, or do we want to go a little bit further down to the right and then head up from there? I think... God, I don't know, because there's so many different ways you could go about doing this, and there's really no wrong direction. There's really no wrong way to go about it. So I think what we'll do is I think we'll head directly ahead, because going up this main hill will take you through so many different types of terrain in not a very long amount of time, and it almost mimics all of the different elements of testing that you would get on something like, say, summer testing grounds. But here, you get all of those different things in, like, one trail. You can definitely get up to a really good cruising speed, especially with, like, you know, you just throw it in high with the off-road gearbox, and you're cruising until you do that. That was a hard hit. I'm not quite sure why that hit was that hard either. I thought we were going to just hit, like, tire first and not bumper first, but apparently that was the exact opposite of what we did. Still one of the best views in the game. One of the absolute best views in the game. All right, let's creep on down this hill and ease it. Oh my God. All right, well, I think our suspension might have been a tad stiff for that. Okay, well, new plan. Let's head on back to the garage and maybe head a different direction, because I don't think that was the right way to start things off. Let's go over here to the left, and then what we'll do is we'll head on over to the little off-road park area, which is sort of situated across the way from the racetrack, and from there, we should be able to hit some really fun trails. Quick right-hand turn, and then this will take you basically all the way around to where the racetrack starts, or you can do some of the muddy hill climbs, which I really want to see how this thing handles those. It just looks so good in this environment too. It's one of those things where the more heavy-duty line of the pickup truck chassis are a little underrepresented, I think, in terms of just general modding in this game. Because if you're making a pickup truck, a lot of people will either go for maybe a 1500 or a 2500 or a 3500, but not necessarily all the way up to a 5500, because it's a lot less common of a class of truck, for one, and I think for two, it's just a little bit less popular because you do see them less often. There is a little cove back there, but I don't know if I want to go after something like that in a truck this big. Yeah, let's go across the water here, and we'll do a little bit of a mudding test, and then from there, we should be able to work our way back on over towards the right-hand side to hit some of the trails in that little park area. I've got to say, with it being on 37s, I say air quotes, just 37s, it is perfectly capable of plowing through just about whatever mud you can put in front of it. Now, granted, we haven't taken it somewhere like Rock Runner's Mud Park just yet, but, I mean, it would probably have trouble in some place like that, but, I mean, out here and in most muddy areas, I think you're going to be just fine. Come on. The high range is so well balanced. It's got a really good speed without being too fast, I think, for a lot of areas like this, because a lot of these trucks, the high range will either be too fast or not quite enough, and it'll just feel like a tiny upgrade from low plus. But this feels like a high range that you can just cruise around in and never really have an issue with. Like, it's still letting me vary my throttle input, which is exactly what you want, and it's also letting me just kind of keep a easily maintainable speed without being so fast that it just overwhelms everything and starts to tumble over and rip the ground out from underneath it, which is also not what you want. And even though, yes, this is a stiff, towing-focused suspension, it does a pretty good job on the trails because, let's face it, you're gonna need to use it in some off-road scenarios. If you end up using it, especially in the campaign mode, you're gonna have to do some trailing. You're gonna have to do some four-wheeling, especially if you're gonna be using it to recover other trucks. And you know, if you're gonna be using it for that, you wanna make sure that it is capable, and I would definitely say that it is. Now, in areas like this, you might struggle a little bit, but come on, find some grip at the front end. Oh no. Reverse, easy. Come on, find some wheel speed. I think we just needed to change our angle just a tad. And almost there. And it's just about good. Come on, find it. I've also got to say, this thing has some really nice grip tuning if you like a mixture of both grip and slip that feels really realistic and I think will really kind of dial you into the experience. This thing does a really, really nice job of that. It's got a really good driving feel, and I would definitely like to use it not only for towing and hauling, but potentially in some future RP videos. It would definitely be a really good candidate for those, in my opinion. But if you enjoyed this very first look at this Ram 5500 in SnowRunner, make sure to let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Hit that like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I will see y'all next time.